Welcome to CaCo Talks, the weekly podcast where conversations about life, hot topics, mental health, and more take center stage. We are your hosts, Catelyn and Courtney Geiger. Together, we explore thought-provoking discussions with an ambient vibe that inspires open and honest dialogue. So sit back, relax, and join us for some insightful conversation that will leave you feeling informed and inspired. All right. So,
How do we get to this topic? I guess that's a good start.
Yeah, how do we get into it? Well, really, I was expressing to Catelyn, just personally, that I had been having some mental health struggles, which I feel like I'm slightly improving from even now. But I was explaining, I was like, maybe I should look into a therapist. I just been explaining all the stuff that's been going on in life. And you're like, well, maybe you should look into a therapist. And I kept saying, well, I'm going to need a therapist. I think I need a therapist. And you're like, yeah, you should look into it. And then I finally just was like, you know what? I'm going to look up therapists. I'm going to really do some research and look up therapists.
Yeah.
So,
and I think, so I have been to therapy. This is Catelyn. Catelyn has been to therapy before for a previous situation. That's the word we'll use. And so I really, 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 really enjoyed that experience. Not at the moment, but like looking back in hindsight, I really enjoyed that experience and I enjoyed the therapist. So, Courtney, I think you went for like the required stuff, but as far as like the extra stuff that I went for, you didn't have to go, so you chose not to go. And so maybe you didn't get to like the full benefit of it because I don't think you were required to go to many like sessions or anything like that. So.
Well, I went to like I guess preliminary is probably not the right word, but I went to like the opening sessions. Yeah, the initial sessions. And I think I never had a session really alone with her, not like a solo, like booked by myself session alone with her, I don't think. But we would like switch off. So like you'd have some time, I would have some time. And
yeah. But that was for the incident, the situation that was going on, not necessarily about just like life in general.
Yeah.
So,
and that was when I was really young. I don't think we were even in high school yet.
Oh no, we were in middle school.
Yeah, we were in middle school. So we couldn't have
been.
We
were in seventh.
Yeah, we were probably 12.
I think we were in 8th grade.
Were we 12 or 13 then? Huh?
Yeah. We were 13 or 14.
Because we finished middle school at 14, I believe, correct?
So we had to be 13 or 14.
Yeah, we had to be 13.
Because our birthday's late, so yeah.
Yeah, so we were probably 13. But just getting into preteen, early teen years, really. So we were going to therapy at the time for the incident. And I didn't really have those personal or like one-on-one continuous sessions that Catelyn and my mom ended up having eventually. So I missed out on that. And at the time I was using volleyball, people know I played volleyball, as kind of my outlet escape. So I was really focused on that growing up. And even I still play volleyball, so it's always been an outlet. Still something I do as an outlet. But I neglected sort of my mental health progress, or I didn't put as much emphasis on it, And I think I ended up, like a lot of people, I guess repression is the word. It doesn't feel like repression in like an evil, dark sense, but it's like you just put things to the side. You don't really handle it. You just look for ways to avoid the problem, basically.
Yeah.
Until now. Now that I'm much older, I live alone. I'm like, I shouldn't say I live alone, but anyway, I do. And I'm like in the world, figuring things out for myself. And sometimes it feels like I don't always have the tools to really handle the just some of the like obstacles mentally that you come up against all the time.
Mhm. Mhm.
And especially going in the career field that I want to like go into, as well as just like as a personally as a young woman, like, and then dealing with childhood stuff as well. Sometimes it's like you don't know what to do. You know there's something, but you don't know exactly what to do. So
Yeah.
we suggested, or I was talking to Catelyn, and she was like, therapy is something you never really went through seriously. So you might look into that.
Mhm.
And I agree. I think there's a lot of stuff that I hadn't really dealt with. Like I always found some outlet, even
Yeah.
art became an outlet for that sort of stuff, like I always look for like
Mhm.
some way to express it, but you know, it definitely can be a lot.
Yeah. And I think that like cuz like a lot of the things that I was taught in my first course of like therapy were not things that were um that I really fully grasped at the time, I don't think. I
Yeah.
think like now that I'm older, I'm able to apply those things to like life now.
We also have adult
And then
minds now.
yeah,
Like at the
exactly. And I was
time
gonna
our
say
brains were still developing for real.
yeah, and I was gonna say I don't think that you should like guilt yourself because you didn't take that opportunity. Because I don't think like nothing then could have been like, oh, well, you're gonna need this later. It was like in a kid's mind, you're just like, oh well, I don't need it. Like, you
Yeah.
know,
You don't understand the
um,
ramifications of what it looks like
yeah,
for real in
the
your life.
decisions you're making. Yeah, or how it's gonna benefit. You know what I mean? Because you're just like,
Yeah.
okay. And the thing too that was another layer added onto it. It was um, we were mandated to go, so it wasn't like you know the beginning parts of it was not optional, but when it became optional, it was just like, I don't see the point of this.
Yeah.
Outside of the situation. And the only
Yeah.
reason why I ended up going was because I didn't have something like volleyball. So it was like, well, you're going to go. Like, this is your. I don't think I really wanted to go back then either. I think I was actually like told by mom you're going. So
Yeah.
I don't think either because we were just like, we're fine. We don't need this.
Yeah.
But like years later now, I'm like, oh yeah, like that was great, fantastic. Um, and it's unfortunate because Courtney didn't necessarily get to experience that. And who's to say Courtney would have experienced that? So,
Yeah. I mean, I think everything happens for a reason. Like I'm glad, I think because we were well-adjusted children and we always had to like, that's the first thing you learn as a child, especially being in traumatic situations we were in, and being like black children and being black women children, is we don't have the luxury of sitting around and crying. Unfortunately, like
mm,
we had to always, no matter what went on during the weekend or what went on, we had to get up, go to school, and
hmm
continue on with our lives. So I think when it came to therapy at that time, I was probably seeing it more as like uh, reaching out, I guess. So I don't. It's not admitting a weakness, but it was like I don't need it because I'm just going to do what I always did: get up and make it and continue on with
yeah,
life. You know, which
yeah,
is what
and
we
I think
had to
that's
do.
one
We
of
had to
the
do that.
things
You
for
know.
sure. And I was going to say that's one of the things that we were taught early on was, and I won't say in general, but like by a specific individual,
Hmm.
it was heavily pushed that any type of emotions other than I guess happiness. And let's be honest, we didn't really identify happiness there either. Um,
Hmm.
but it was very looked down upon and it was very like, oh, you're weak. And so anything surrounding emotions, feelings, just like mental health, probably even was just
Yeah.
like, oh no, we don't do that, or like you're weak.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I was having a conversation the other day, and this person uses the word surrender often, and I was like, I really have a hard time with that word when you say it because it just reminds me of like weakness. And
Yeah.
I was like, so what does that word mean to you? And then they explained what that meant to them. And I was like, oh, yeah, like, okay, like when you put it in that context, like I can see that, but it just gives me like weakness. And so yeah, I just like I definitely struggle with that idea of like any emotions are considered weak, or like not being even productive is considered weak. Not producing is considered weak.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of that stems from a particular person as well as our society, our society too, I think. But
Yeah.
that's one of those things that I think that the therapist helped me see and acknowledge early on. She would have this saying, it's the BITCH saying, and I can't remember what it stands for.
Being
I
in
think it's a
total
line
control of herself.
of herself. Yeah. Okay, that's it. How do you know that?
Because you repeated it a lot as a kid.
Hmm.
And it's on the fridge.
Oh, you know what? She definitely did give me that. It's on the side, on the left side.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Okay. Anyway, but she was not very she didn't like specify what it pertained to. It was just in all aspects of life. So I like still use that saying till this day, or the acronym really to this day, when it comes to like emotions, when it comes to being in different spaces, when it comes to being uncomfortable. And obviously we talked about different scenarios and how to handle those scenarios and whatnot in different aspects, and what it meant to be a BITCH, as well as in the form of the acronym, but as well as in the form of like it's okay to just be a BICTH sometimes, because maybe you're just not feeling it, and that is part of you being in control of herself by exploring and feeling the feelings that you're feeling. So um,
Yeah. I think
I
some of
didn't know
those
that.
things in practice, I'm trying to think as a 13-year-old, now
Mm-hmm.
we're 13 years removed past 13. So
Mm-hmm.
like exactly. So I think that oh, that's crazy. But I think
Makes me feel old.
yeah, it makes me feel old, but also like at 13 you don't think you're ever getting to anything beyond what's happening in the present moment. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like 10 years seems like an actual lifetime away. But
Oh yeah.
and now it's like life's so different. But
Mm-hmm.
yay for progress. But but yeah, so I think that I'm trying to think as a 13-year-old processing kind of the complexity of what our therapist was asking us to do.
Yeah.
I think
Mm-hmm.
it was harder to apply, and like we were smart girls, like we were not like we were aware enough to like have serious conversations with our therapist. So like it wasn't that, it was just like I think at 13 we were like in the midst of it, and so it's really hard to reflect on and like change when you're in the midst of things, I think.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
you
and I
know
think too that like the like you said, the problem was not necessarily what she was saying. It was just to a 13-year-old's mind. First of all, I think a lot of 13-year-olds or kids in general, until you're on your own, you just, oh, well, not me, like,
mhm.
or it is a problem that can be solved by somebody other than you.
Mhm.
When you come to adulthood, you quickly realize no matter what's been done to you or that you're doing to other people, a lot of times that is your problem and you're
Yeah,
stuck figuring it out. And so I think at 13, that's not how
you're
I took that
processing
at
things.
all. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I mean, at 13, I
yeah.
took it as literally being a BITCH. So I was not a nice person at all. And Courtney, I'm sure you can attest to that.
Mm,
I took that literally. And let's be honest, it didn't get me very far. um, But now that I as an adult, I truly understand what she was saying. And the thing is, like, I don't even remember what the acronym stands for, but I remember talking about it. I remember the scenarios that we talked about, and like what it looked like as you progress and you heal, kind of thing. Um, and it definitely wasn't what I interpreted it as a 13-year-old. I can tell you that.
yeah.
So
Well, I also think too, I'll speak for myself. I remember at the time I was more confused on like why is this happening to me?
yeah.
Like why are these incidents happening? Why is this person doing this? And like it was like
Hmm.
why? And the thing you realize as you get older is the question isn't really about a why. It's
Hmm.
really because the why isn't for, especially as a child, if you're going through child abuse. It's not really a why. The why is on the perpetrator. The question for us is, how do I heal, and how do I move forward? Because you might not ever get an answer to the why. And the why is complicated, and the why has got a lot to do with somebody else's issues. And, you were the child in that situation. So,
and the why is oftentimes not answered.
The why is oftentimes not answered. So it becomes less of a why, and now it's like, how do I heal? How do I move forward? How do I define what things look like for me as an adult moving forward? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that.
And at 13, you don't know I don't think you have the you could have, I don't know if you have the awareness, or you're not removed enough from the situation to see everything. I won't say, I don't think we were immature 13-year-olds, or aware. We had to be. We were like, I think we were hyper developed, actually, 13-year-olds. But I mean, I think we had to be to survive. But I think that we couldn't see the forest for the trees because we were in the middle of the forest. You know what I mean? It was just like, how do we handle
that's why
this?
Hindsight is always, obviously, it can be beneficial, just because you're able to see things retrospectively and look upon things without being in the thick of it, and having different.
And we weren't even unsure if we were really in a safe space away from the perpetrator at the time. So it was like, we were still dealing with the issue of like, is this gonna happen again? Like, it was just like logistic things that we had to
we had to still think about.
We were still thinking about that. I think also we just it was like survival too. It was like, how do we deal with, we can't ask these like big theoretical questions because we're like trying to figure out how to like survive, So
I do. But one thing I will say that differed for me is that I never asked why, in the sense of like, why this happened to me. I think I asked more of like a why not, like, because me as a child, I don't know. I always ask like more of a why not me, because of I guess the type of child that I was. And the reason why I say the type of child that I was is because of the type, or what would be said, that like, oh well, you're just like this person or this other person, or you're just like mouthy, or just the off-putting misconception about who I was as a kid, and I guess my mannerisms and whatnot. So I was just like, why not me? Like, you already don't like me, So to me, it wasn't a matter of, oh, why me? Why would you do this to me? It was more of like, oh, this was a matter of time. I knew this was coming. I mean, I probably could have did something different. So I think I did quite a bit of like self-blaming, more than like asking myself why me, just because it was set up that way, as in like I was the problem.
No, I hear that. I can see that. And that's interesting. We had different perspectives, because I was always just asking why, and I was trying to like understand the perpetrator. That's what I think I was trying to understand. It's
how
like,
did we get here?
How did we get here? And like, I knew it wasn't. I always had the sense that it wasn't our fault. Like, that was always made very clear to me. I don't know how or why, but even as a kid, I never felt like it was my fault. I always felt like this person is like, honestly, kind of unhinged. Yeah, this person is a problem, and why are we being subject to this? Which I think is natural for any child to think. Like,
especially when you're seeing the switch between behaviors, like we saw.
Yeah,
like this person was very different under different circumstances than your typical circumstances, or when certain people were around, and weren't around. So I think in any child's mind, or even in like nature, for instance, if something is unsafe, something is uncertain, um, you're probably going to find some way to seek safety, shelter,
or manage.
Exactly,
which is what we ended up doing. Is like, we ended up managing. We were hyper aware of our own behavior, so as not to upset somebody, and we were aware of like, we can't do this or we can't say that. Any shifts in this person's like tone, any shifts in this person's attitude, and it's because they were so like subject to change, And then and then like when they would change, it would become unhinged and dangerous for us. So like we had to be hyper aware of that all the time. And I mean, we were like 5 and 6 years old being aware of this person's mood changes, shifts, and like, don't say this, don't like that. You know what I mean? And it's like, you know, what should be on my mind at 5 is Teletubbies.
Right.
And like, you know, riding my bike. But I'm like sitting here managing, you know, a grown adult's like emotional outburst. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I think too that like I think the reason why our outlook on it is a little different, or our experience is a little different, just because I think you were slightly more favored because he saw you as, or this person saw you as his, like mini me, if you will. And so while you obviously like, if you were in the house, you got the raft, but I feel like you were able to. The treatment was slightly, ever so slightly, a little different, you know?
No, I think that's partly true. Again, that was like I mean, we're talking about children here, so nobody is doing anything to like win favors. And if I would have been doing anything to win favors, it'd been problematic. So I'm like, we're just subject to like, we were really both subject to this person. This person projected all of that onto us as their own like psyche or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I really think it stemmed from his own problems with other individuals that really had nothing to do with the kids. We were just a byproduct of
we were
the situation. And we were the, you know, just they were taking advantage of the opportunity. We were there at the right time. So
yeah, we were definitely. It definitely felt like we were just like in a lot of ways like pawns, to be honest. Like,
yeah, pretty much.
And I mean, I've always maintained this. I really think his issues with us were just direct stem from like he couldn't get to our mother, so he got to us. That makes sense. Like, I really think if he had been in a more, I guess, closer relationship with our mother, like our mother would have been absolutely abused by him.
Oh yeah,
in every way. And then
he tried, even though he was not like,
and he tried, and he wasn't
he
wasn't allowed like in our space. So like, and I think we were just an extension of the abuse he could not exact on our mother.
On her, yeah. Yeah. And I was deemed her twin, if you will, and Courtney was deemed his twin, and this is in his mind, right? And I think most people could probably visibly see the difference.
You think so?
I think so.
Maybe.
I think so, personally.
That's just so unfair because like our relationship wasn't like that.
Oh yeah,
like,
and that's
children,
the strange part about it that like will never make sense to me, because like even though you were his quote unquote favorite and you were like deemed his twin, you guys did not have any better relationship than me.
Yeah, no, I know. So I was like, I would go when we were going off on it. It was us together, and I always expressed, you know, my my frustrations always. So I didn't know, and that's why I guess I never perceived that you had a different experience of him, because I assumed like, you know, he would get on me the same way he would get on you, you know.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and I think also too, like we had a mutual dislike for this individual, so that was like our bonding point in that situation, even when things were going on. So that was the commonality, that we both had a disdain. We both didn't like the situation. We didn't like the outcome of certain situations. We were both being I don't even know how to say this in a podcast friendly way. We were basically the target of his bullying, if you will.
Bullying's too nice.
It is. His
abuse.
His abuse. We'll just call it what it is. We were both the target of his abuse. However, in that one person is being told, you know, and I wonder too, maybe it's just like I was constantly being told, oh, you're like this person. Oh, like, you know what I mean? And you, maybe
I didn't feel like that was a bad thing, because I was like, what's the alternative? Being like you?
Seriously.
So I was
I
like,
didn't take it as a bad thing until I was like, I would like see different things and like being treated differently. As in like, you would be like, oh, I want to do X, Y, and Z. And I was like, oh, well, I don't want to do that. I want to do X, Y, and Z. And you'd be like, okay, we're going to do it X, Y, and Z. We're going to do what you want to do. AKA what Courtney wants to do. And it was always that.
I don't know why I never realized that. Maybe because I was it was like, I was the beneficiary.
Mm-hmm. Maybe. Possibly. And I think also too, like I think also a part of me was also like an indecisive child. So a part of me, it took a while for me to understand because I was indecisive and it was just like, oh, I don't know. I just don't want to do that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like, oh, we're just going to do it with Courtney. But at some point it was like, okay, well now I know what I want to do or what I want. And it's like, oh, that's being ignored. And it was like, it kind of clicked. It was like, oh, okay, this is what that is.
Yeah.
I get it.
No, I can see that. Also,
Mm-hmm. And then the opposite of that would be.
It's so effed up. No, I'm saying it's so effed up because I'm thinking about my interactions I've had with children, and I'm like, it's never my thought to be like, well, this one's privileged over that one, or that one's more like this or that one. And I'm like, all I can say is he really had to come from a really effed up place himself to even look at children that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm like, don't get me wrong, we've had our traumas, but like, I know enough to know what should like how you should conduct. You know what I mean? But anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
I don't know what I was gonna say. Oh, I was gonna say that like, I think that's maybe why I clung to the other person that was kind of in our life when we would visit, because it was like, oh, and I think you got the reverse treatment from her, you know.
Yeah, it's true.
So, but yeah,
I was just always I'm angry when they would like discuss our mother. Like I was always like, I just felt like that was always off limits because I was like, we all, despite this dog and pony show you try to do every time you pick us up, we all know who's really taking care of us. We all know who we really go back to. What really like we all know who we really are being, sustained by. So please don't. And
that's one of the
that's
things
what
that would
always made me
really,
angry.
and it also made that person angry too. Like when you would bring up what the main provider is doing versus what he's doing as the not main provider, but want too much say. It was just like he would that was
flip
one way
out.
to trigger him,
which
like,
was wild
oh
to me
my
because
God.
we all knew the truth. We all knew what the truth was.
The only person that was ignorant to it was, for some reason, him.
I don't think he was ignorant. I think he was angry.
He was ignorant. I think he was just in denial.
Knew. I think he was angry, and he was angry that we knew, that he knew, that we knew. I think he was angry about. I don't think it was a level of denial. I think it was a very clear. It was anger and misdirected anger at the fact that we all know you ain't shit, really, to be perfectly honest. And you're sitting here trying to exact some sort of authority when you don't do the work. You're a fraud. You know what I mean? It's like, it's calling out his behavior. It was just calling out his behavior, and he would get like irate. Because the truth is, our mother was taking care of us. Our mother was taking care of us, and he was not. He wasn't. He really was not. He would pick us up on the weekends, every other weekend, and then, deal with us for the time, feed us.
Not really. Let's be honest.
Yeah, or most of the time drop us off at his mother's house. I'm like, but who's doing the day in, day out work of taking care of the children? It's not you.
I think that's another thing. So there's a couple of things that just never made sense. This person always would be like, oh, your main provider is just so great and doing the best you can. Okay, cool. And then like the second you would bring to his attention
his lack,
the lack thereof, and it was like a catastrophe happened. Like I'm talking, hurricane beep came through. And then you also had too that like I don't think he or the other person that was there really liked how mom was raising us, in all honesty, because we were the kids who were more outspoken, who would say what was on their mind.
They didn't like she was raising us at all. Like,
To
that's
be
the issue.
honest, that too.
Like,
And then how she was doing it in the aspect of like raising us to be, open about our emotions and things in different aspects and how we felt and saying what was on our mind. They did not
no, they
like
didn't like
that. They
that.
despise that, because kids should stay in the child's place and kids should have no say. And to a certain degree, I understand that concept because you are the parent and you were supposed to lead them in the right direction. But if you're not leading them in the right direction, Mr. Sir, you should have nothing to say at all. So, nor should
And
you ignore their emotions. So if they
and you
feel
don't
some type
even
of way, they
take
should be able to say that.
responsibility for a direction in the first place. Like, you don't
Exactly. You're not
even
even
provide
here.
you're not an
Yeah.
alternative.
You
You're not
got
an
us for
alternative.
what? So you can look at us? And mind you, like, this person would get us every other weekend, right? This person might have been there once a month for like a day. Like, the most of the time when we saw him was for pickup, drop off, and you might see him on the way out going somewhere else. Like, it was like, why are we down here for what? Because we don't even see you. We don't hang out with
Exactly.
you. We do nothing with you.
Now, looking back on it, something I really think now is he did not see us as people. We were not people to him. We were
Objects,
we were
property.
objects and objects of an extension of another object. He saw our mother as an object. Like, we were
I wouldn't even
so
say object. I think a target. A freaking target. Because
yeah.
his only ammo was like, how can I I'll preface this first by saying that I feel like a lot of his relationships, and the reason why I say I feel like is because I don't know for certain, but from what I have seen, people are opportunities for this person, and we were no objection to that rule, nor was
Mm-hmm.
our primary caretaker. We were literally opportunities. What can I get from
Yeah.
this? How can I use this? We were cute to have, if you will, he was like a Kardashian, nice little arm babies when it was beneficial for him to use that. And act like he was the, parent of the year, if you will. But you don't even know my middle name, Mr. Sir. You don't
Yeah.
even know my middle name. You don't know my favorite color. You don't know what's going on with me at school other than I have good grades. And that's because I told you. So I could have told you I have good grades and I don't. Like, you have no idea what's going on in my life. You don't even know who I
Very
am.
true.
You
It's
have
very
no idea
true.
who I am.
It was like being held captive.
Mm-hmm.
It was really like being held captive. It's really all like you can really say.
Seriously.
It like object
So as you can
really,
see,
yeah.
we
Ooh.
definitely need therapy.
Yeah, there's just a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. And that was what the first 13 years of our lives. So that was really
Mm-hmm.
key developmental time in our
Mm-hmm.
lives.
And it didn't
I
really stop
mean,
there, though, because we had other things that didn't happen because we didn't have to go visit anymore.
oh
So we would
yeah,
have a lot of like um,
harassment,
harassment,
stalking.
attempted forced contacts, people just showing up places.
Yeah.
I don't know if other family members were sent or not, but other family members of this person would like show up to things, and you're just like, what?
Yeah, like
Like, how
what?
do you
Yeah.
know this? We were emancipated as
It
quickly
was
as
very
possible.
it was
So
very just like I don't
odd.
know. Unfortunately I feel like we just like as long as he's alive on earth, I don't think we'll ever escape his like wrath, his his search, his whatever, because for whatever reason more he feels like he should have access to us. I'm not gonna say he feels connected because I think what
You want
he
access
think
to us? You can watch our podcast.
yeah, that's true. You want to
Give us a
access?
watch.
Watch the podcast.
Yeah. Give us a view. Thank you.
Thanks. But no, so I feel like he feels like he's like entitled to access, I guess, because he's like our biological father, but not how that works, bud. Not how that works. But you are not
Yeah.
entitled to access anyone just because you are related to them. Like, no. Especially now that we're grown adults. I do something I do think now, and maybe this is what Miss Baumgartner was trying to teach us as kids, is like the whole being in control of herself. Now I think so much differently about how to handle him because I
Mm-hmm.
see him as more of a task to handle now than at the
Mm-hmm.
time. Emotions are tied into it, and I'm not saying emotions aren't tied now, but I see it a little bit more as I need to protect myself for my future. I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
thinking so much. I think about like protecting myself from the future. I was just like protecting myself in the now, or like, do we have to do this,
Mm-hmm.
or like what? I was more like brace myself for impact at that time, which
Mm-hmm.
is I
Yeah.
think that's appropriate for a 13-year-old and for
Mm-hmm.
what we were experiencing because we were just so we had to always brace ourselves for impact of like whatever storm he was going
Yeah.
to bring.
And I think then it was more of like short term because it was like, okay, well, every other weekend, right? So you
Yeah.
prepare for the weekend, brace yourself, put your armor on, and when you come back, okay, unload. Now,
Unload.
as
Yeah.
an adult, it's like long term because, first of all, at this point, we've seen for 20 years, this problem's not going away.
Oh, yeah.
So, and the
I
problem
guess
is
I thought it would
not,
go away. I thought he would like get the picture,
I
but
never thought it would go away.
I thought eventually he would get the picture and just give
Mm-mm.
up.
I don't think so. And I think also too another thing to note is that I think the main push, especially like within the past few years, it hasn't been. I mean, maybe it is. I don't know. Block.
Oh,
um,
yeah. Block for sure.
Beautiful button. You should use it.
I
But I
definitely,
think.
well, I think what I would change. No, did I cut you off? Go ahead if you want to
Oh,
finish.
go. It doesn't matter. Oh, what I was going to say was I think the main push now is another person, the other party that played a role, is I think even then was inclined to have something that she didn't have with for her child. So she
Mm.
tried to have it, through us, if you will. And so that is the main push for what happened then is what is happening now. And so maybe once that person transitions or whatever happens with that person, maybe things will die down. Then that would be my only saving grace. When both of them transition, would be the
I
saving
don't
grace.
think
Unfortunately,
I don't think it would be. I don't think once this other person you're talking about transitions that's gonna happen.
you don't think so?
I don't think so because I think
Hmm.
that was always a ploy in my mind for that was always a easy excuse to be like, well, this person wants to see you or whatever, and I'm like,
Hmm.
I think it was like both wanting access to us in our lives, and I think specifically our dad saw us as having access as a way to like really try to attempt to control mother. To be honest,
Yeah.
um, I really think that. So I don't think personally he would ever, just for his own sake. I think I can see it getting worse actually once this other person
Really?
transitions. Yeah.
Hmm. Interesting.
But now,
So
what I
this
was
makes
going
me
to
wonder
say,
too, because we have another child in the factor. Um,
mhm,
I wonder if that individual gets contacted
I don't know,
or not. Because
maybe.
I don't know. Obviously, I don't know what it feels like to not know who this individual is and his behaviors and his tactics, um, from birth until now. Like, and that is why I'm able to make the conscious decision on my own. Which our mom was never the mom that was like, "Oh no, don't go to see this person." My mom was like, "Yeah, go figure it out for yourself," all the time. She
Mhm.
was always promoting that relationship, but we were able to formulate our own
I
opinions
don't know if I would
and
have
our
made that
own ideas.
decision though.
What do you mean?
Like, as a mother, now that I look back on it, I know why
Mm-hmm.
she made that decision, like figure it out on your own. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that had to be a tough decision because she very much put her children in direct harm.
Yeah.
Like
You
that
know,
decision
I.
alone put us in direct. I mean, we were harmed just in the ways that we were like harmed that actually
Mm-hmm.
happened. But there
Mm-hmm.
was no reason we could not have been killed on that man's watch.
No, for sure.
There's times we should have been killed on that man's watch.
Probably. For sure. Yeah,
So
there
like
was a lot of
that
risk
was
factors.
I don't know if I would have as a mother if I would make that decision. I don't know
Hmm.
because I'm not going to put my child in harm's way with this type of personality.
Individual. Yeah. Well, I think that is, I think when you are thinking about it from your perspective of like, I don't deem this safe because I don't deem it safe. But I think mom I think she truly took herself out of it and was like, well, this is what's best for the kids. The kids need to learn, um, first of all, I think, I don't know if this was the intent, but how to navigate an individual like that, on
Yeah.
top of emotions. how to, if you were feeling some type of way, verbalizing that, speaking up on what you believe and what you were experiencing and things like that. I don't think we would
Yeah.
have learned that if mom would have just kept us away from the problem. I think if anything, we would have ran to it and we would have accepted it even more. I couldn't imagine being on the other party's point of view. I get
I guess
why
it was a
his mother made
lose-lose
that
situation.
decision. Yeah, I think it is. But I get why his mom made that decision because if, she's doing basically what you just said of like, I know the problem, I know what this
Yeah.
person is capable of, I'm going to keep my
Yeah.
child away. That makes
Yeah.
sense. I totally get it and I totally like empathize because I don't want to be the parent on either foot.
I just don't trust him. Like,
Oh,
I
for
just
sure.
don't trust that he's going to bring my child back safe.
Anything good. Yeah. Not even safe. Anything good. Like every
Yeah.
time, me and our primary parent were talking about the back and forth and like what she would experience every time we would come back. And she was saying like it was just so exhausting because um, she just like never knew the children that came back. She was like every time she had to like relearn them and get them back on a routine. And it was just like every other week that was the experience. Every other week, especially when we were younger.
Mm-hmm.
But she was just saying like the emotional toll of that, which was really exhausting.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I can imagine. That's why I think my first instinct would be my child is not going. I mean, I look at it as, would you drop your kid off with a serial killer? You
I
see what
mean,
I'm saying?
definitely not.
And I'm not saying that he was a serial killer, but like
Not far from
he
it.
was like he was like couple his behavior aligned, okay? Like
Very sporadic and
I wouldn't.
unhinged.
It's like it's somebody to be unhinged.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, not even, it's like
Mm-hmm.
beyond shadow of a doubt. I know this person is unhinged.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that
I
was
mean, I
it.
think
Should be a tough call to
main
make.
agreed, agreed. And like I said, I wouldn't want to be the parent on either ends of like the third party or like our mom's party because the
Mm-hmm.
decision that they both had to make, there are some huge repercussions of that. Um, of hopefully this um I'm just gonna say our stepbrother, he
Half
is
brother.
able half brother, yeah, because we don't have the same mom. I hope that he
Well,
has the
step brother
discernment.
is like. Well, I just want to make it clear because like mom is also like remarried, so I don't want to say like.
Yeah,
I just want to make it clear that it's not like
it's
step.
not
It's
it's
not
not on the mother's
because
side.
yeah, it's
It's
not on
not
our
on the
mother's
mother's
side. It's not on our mother's
So,
side.
yeah.
Just
So
in case
I
people
really
listen.
hope. Yeah, I know. Yeah. So if yeah, I really hope that he has the discernment to just realize who this person is, and quickly for himself, and not run to this person for something because this person is extremely manipulative, and you could possibly be his next opportunity. So just tread lightly. Um, yeah, I like I couldn't imagine being on the other end of that. Like,
I mean, I
oof.
could imagine it just because you'd be older dealing with it, but
Mm.
then there's also the possibility that because they're older, they have a little more. They're not subject to him the same way we were. Like
Yeah, but I think
they could
you could
theoretically
put yourself
choose.
back in that. You could choose, but you could still put yourself back in that position because I
I
think
mean, you
also too,
could.
there's also a longing for like, who is this person? What is this person? Like trying to figure it all out.
That's
Versus
hard for me to
we were
imagine
able to.
longing.
I can
It's really
imagine.
hard.
Uh,
It's hard for
I
me to
can
imagine.
imagine, but and then also too, like I don't know. Obviously, we don't know. Like, but if like say one parent is telling you something, and you're like, oh no, that can't be true. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many other
Yeah.
aspects I think that go into it that obviously we don't know or can't even fathom or consider just because we experienced our pretty much our whole life. Like we're still going through it today.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Part of
Well,
me like I wonder. I like. Part of me wants to like reach out to this third party. I hate to say third party because that's not what he is. And if I hope that
we're trying to
if
protect identities here.
yeah, we're trying to protect identities here without giving too much information for one, and for two, I don't. We don't have their permission to provide the information in the first place. So
Yeah.
I really hope this third party. And if this third party is listening and wants or has questions, Not saying
My
don't reach out to that
email
person,
is
but I would
check the description
say,
box.
yes, I was going to say, hit us up. Hit us up because our opinions and our, not even opinions, because it's not an opinion, it's our
It's an
experience.
experience.
Our experience. I'm sure, hopefully your parent has shared some things with you too, but our experience was shaky, to say the least. Shaky. So just imagine Hurricane Katrina hitting us right in the face every other weekend. So
yeah. And
yeah.
we were just so little. That's the other issue too, is I think we were just so small and like nobody's developed at that age. So like our whole outlook on life, we really were managing some really complex adult issues, you know, at like 10, 11 years old. And I think it makes it hard to go back to school when everybody's like rainbows and unicorns and like, what did you do this weekend? Like, and then we were black in a white school. So it was like, I think I started to see like whiteness as like, they don't have these issues that we have. I go back home to utter chaos and destruction.
Yeah.
And the white kids are living these like lily white lives where like nothing bad ever happens and mom and dad are perfect.
And that is our like perception of what was happening, because they could have
Our
experienced the
perception.
same thing.
And
So
as I got older, I realized they were experiencing some craziness too. So I'm not taking away, it's not a racial thing anymore for me now. I'm just saying as a kid, that's what it perceived as, because they came to school with mom and dad and this and like we don't know what was happening behind closed doors, but like
exactly,
just like the Murdaugh murders, a lot was happening behind closed doors. So like we're not. So I'm not going to say that that they didn't have those experiences. Please don't say. I'm not saying white people don't experience this stuff. In fact, I think this stuff originates with white people. To be honest, we really want to get into it, but I think that but I just knew what we were experiencing, and it seemed like, you know, you already are outcast because you're a black kid, black woman, kid, black girl, child. Then you see the white kids are having this and that, and it seems so like. Oh, together. Yeah. And then they exist family oriented, and they exist in a school which is made to celebrate them anyways and doesn't celebrate us. So like it appears that way to a child, you know?
Yeah.
And so we had to manage that too. And it was just it was tough. Some coming back from some of those weekends and just some of the issues we had, it was tough going back to school and like not being able to really discuss all the things that were happening and the things that were happening just behind closed doors. Like it was just very.
Yeah. And I think also too that because this person appeared how the people at our school and our surroundings appeared, they were like, well, why don't you be with this person? Why don't you like this person? Or why? And people had so many questions, like, oh,
yeah,
so many questions
and that's exhausting
about how
too.
things. Yeah, because of how things looked optic wise with that person versus what things really were. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The kids didn't understand it. Hell, I didn't understand it.
Yeah, they didn't.
The math wasn't mathing for me either. So, but it was just a lot of like,
and we didn't have the language for it either. So
yeah.
So
Nor could we like talk about it
nobody,
because it was considered weak.
Yeah. And also, like you said, the kids didn't understand. They were going based off appearances the way we were going based off appearances with them. So we were all just looking like, well, what's the issue? Right. You know?
Yeah.
And now we all understand that like appearances have little to do with what's actually happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now I speak about it very clearly and very directly. And I think sometimes people are shocked. Like when I do talk about the things that have like happened in my life, they're like, well, we didn't know. And it's like, of course you didn't know. Because I was walking around like taught to not show it. You know what I mean? Like it was never the goal for people to know, you know?
Yeah. And
So,
I think also too that like, though people I think want to know for I think a lot of nosy reasons, what difference was it going to make you knowing?
that's sure.
What were you going to get from that besides just being nosy and knowing what we were going through? Me talking to you was not going to provide any assistance or aid or help with what I was going through or my experience, really. You weren't going to stop what was going on or anything. So why am I sharing this with you?
Exactly. It made me
It
feel
doesn't make sense.
further. I think it made me feel further outcasted. I mean, I was already sort
Yeah.
of a quiet kid, anyways, but I'd never felt comfortable in those spaces because it was still just like, well, why aren't you like us? And why don't you like
Mm-hmm.
us? And it was like all it was like being almost like re-traumatized or like being questioned again of like,
Mm-hmm.
why don't you just do XYZ? Or why don't
Yeah.
you just what like nothing could be going wrong in your life? And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I think that's why I always gravitate towards a quiet person in the room because like you don't know what they're going through.
For
You
real.
don't know how they
And
got there. It's not fair
they
to
owe you no
assume, but
explanation. Like they
yeah,
owe
they
you
don't owe you.
no
Nobody
explanation.
owes anybody an explanation for your comfortability.
Right? Like that makes
No,
no freaking sense.
nobody owes you comfortability. Nobody owes you an explanation for them in their lives. And I think that's what ticks me off too about like adults who do that,
Mm-hmm.
like in the workplace and stuff. If you are a quiet person or you are reserved or you don't want to interact, people take personal offense to you just being like, I
Yeah.
don't want to interact with you. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody owes you
Mm-hmm.
that. Nobody owes you validation, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And like the funny thing is that kind of like not. I guess it kind of happened at work. Someone was like talking about the office space that we were in, and they were like, "Oh, the quiet girl." They didn't know my name or whatever. They're
Mm-hmm.
just like, "Oh, the quiet girl," and I didn't take offense to it because at first I didn't even realize that they were talking about me. I was just like, oh, "Okay, like whatever." And then I was like, "Oh, me?" And they were like, "Yeah," and I was like, as if I like should have known that. I was like, "Oh yeah, like I'm quiet," but like I was like, "There's really nothing to talk about because I'm not going to share my personal information with you. I'm not going to share my business with you. I'm not going to share my backstory with you. If anything, we can
Exactly.
talk about service level things, and we can talk about work related things. But outside of that, there's really nothing to talk about. Let alone we are in a workplace, baby. The second something comes up or goes wrong, you're gonna be the first one trying to use that against me. I am not giving you
Exactly.
the energy or the freaking fuel. I know how this works. Thank you to sperm donor. Okay, so
Oh,
you can
yeah,
miss me.
definitely.
Like all that small talk, not my thing.
And yeah,
Not my thing.
that's another reason why like work environments, why people find them so toxic now is because they don't take into
Mm-hmm.
consideration people's actual personal lives and why
Mm-hmm.
somebody would just not like
Yeah,
speak to you.
and
Like
not even
somebody
your
just
personal
might not.
life, your personal space and boundaries.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
you are
definitely.
not obligated to talk about your life or your personal things at work.
With
Like someone in the
anybody.
elevator asked me the other day, like, "How was your weekend?" Great. My one goal this weekend was to do pretty much nothing. That was the elevator talk that we had.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, no,
It's like it's very bro,
concerning.
my issues with people
Oh,
assuming
I know.
that I should talk at work or not.
Yeah.
So,
Anywho,
yeah,
so
but
the reason why
anyway.
we have this episode is because we are seeking out a therapy, and we just wanted to obviously an hour later chat about our experience finding a therapist. So Courtney and
Mhm.
I are now in different states, um, and we are in the process of trying to be better people, heal, have
Past
better
traumas.
experiences, and all that. So Courtney, how was finding a therapist there? What are some hurdles?
Insurance is a big
Mm-hmm.
hurdle, obviously the
Yeah.
money. Some places look really great, but they don't exactly accept insurance, so their
Mm-hmm.
rate will be kind of pricey and it's like I wish I could pay you $200 an hour, but unfortunately I can't. So, um that's probably the biggest hurdle, which I think is probably everybody's biggest hurdle. But then also finding somebody that you think will align I don't want to say align, but like will be best to give you the kind of help that you need,
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then looking for that kind of person.
Yeah.
And then feeling comfortable in the environment. Like I know one thing we discuss is like, do you want like a male or female therapist?
Mm-hmm.
And like
Mm-hmm.
what kind of things can come up like because of that? Do you want like a black or white therapist, binary, non-binary, like somebody
Mm-hmm.
who can understand the experience? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. And therapists apparently, I didn't know this, but therapists apparently like specialize in different areas.
Yeah, they
So you
do.
even have to take into consideration that like some do PTSD, some just do general trauma, some do
Some do
um,
cognitive behavioral therapy.
yeah, anxiety. I mean,
Some do
like a
like
whole
age
array of things.
groups.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
So there was a lot of things like even when we were looking, because I was helping Courtney look and I looked for myself too, there's a lot of things I just didn't take into consideration when looking for a therapist, because my first therapist was just kind of like, we went through a bit of therapist in the beginning, but she was kind of just like handed to us in the end, because of her reputation and whatnot, and phenomenal, right? But as an adult, it's very different.
Yeah. And I know, like, I'm going to be honest, like, even post dealing with childhood trauma, because really we just talked about childhood trauma, just having traumas as an adult now, things that have come up as an adult, I'm like, there's certain, like, I get triggered by certain types of people, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, I don't know if I want to, like, feel comfortable talking to certain types of therapists. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's also part of it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
That's fair.
that's one for me, especially, I mean, because if I gotta pay for it, I'm really may as well get what I want,
Mm-hmm.
or what would be
I agree
best
with that.
beneficial to me. I don't want to be like re-triggered in therapy,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I won't go to a certain group of people, because I don't want to be re-triggered.
Exactly.
So, because I had a great experience with my first therapist, I'm looking for someone that gives me that same vibe.
Yeah, I hear that.
So, Courtney, what are you looking for in a therapist?
I mean, I think I'm definitely looking for somebody who can understand age-wise where I'm at,
Mm-hmm.
and then career-wise where I'm at, who also can really help unpack childhood trauma, as well as just kind of giving tools to help with whenever I do feel mentally like more depressed, or when I get in like a funk. I call it a funk, which I guess is probably depression. But whenever I get in that like less motivated state, um, I I'd be looking for just like skills with that, and then obviously unpacking childhood trauma. I think that's one, and then also helping me to develop some more skills or some more, I guess, like go-to type things when it comes to dealing with workplace trauma, because that's something I feel like I have as well. Um, and dealing with the basically PTSD from harassment, and how to continue moving forward with dealing with certain groups of people. So,
Okay.
yeah. What about you?
I honestly, so my first therapist was very quirky, if you will, right? So
Mm,
I am looking for someone that is ultimately quirky. I'm looking for someone that will not be triggering to my past experiences, based off of, unfortunately, physical appearance. I
mm,
am looking for someone who deals with trauma and or childhood trauma. Um, and like Courtney said, someone is specific to or that caters to my age range. I am also looking for either something that can be virtual and or in person. So I think I want to
mm-hmm.
start virtual, then move to in person once I know that it's a good fit. Um,
Yeah, that's a
and
good plan.
so I think those are my criteria.
Yeah, I think that's a good plan, because I was going to go straight for in person, but maybe
Mm-hmm.
virtual is good first, just to like see if it's a good
Yeah.
fit, and then, or maybe even over the phone. I don't know,
Yeah, I
but
think either virtual or, and I think it's just to like gauge, like, am I going to have a good experience with person? Am I going to be able to share the things that I want to talk about in trauma with this person? And if I can't do that virtually, then I know for a fact I can't do it in person. So
yeah,
just,
yeah, that's probably a good
hang
plan.
that up.
Yeah, because I was gonna go straight for in person, actually, because I do want to eventually get to in person. I
Mm-hmm.
prefer in person. I think that would help me like process things a little bit more.
Agreed.
Especially,
Yeah.
I mean, I spend so much time alone as well. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, yes, that's what I'm looking for in a therapist. And actually, there's one more thing I wanted to say earlier when we were having our discussion about our childhood, which is obviously something we really need therapy for. um,
As
I
you
mean, we
can
talked about
tell.
it. We've talked about it plenty of times on here before, but like it just came up again today. But the other thing I wanted to like reiterate, I didn't get a chance to, is like how I just see things differently now as an adult versus 13. Like at 13 when we were dealing with that, like I was
Mm-hmm.
saying, I felt like I had to just brace myself for impact and just
Yeah.
deal with the coming storm. which is children shouldn't have to view their parent as a coming storm, but he was.
Mm-hmm.
And but now I look at things differently because I have my own life to manage and protect and
Mm-hmm.
make and build. So I see him now the same way I would see an intruder. I don't see him as a this overwhelming storm. I see him as a problem to be dealt with. And trust, you
Mm-hmm.
will be dealt with. Have you seen that TikTok?
Mm-hmm.
but but
That's
now
interesting. I don't see it as that
I see
at
them as
all.
because I just see him as like he's not the type of person who will just go away, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
see him as like, you try to pull some funny stuff, we can have a comedy show. Who's gonna get the last laugh?
That's funny.
And
That's so
I
funny because I am the complete opposite. I see this person as this person's never going to go away, but I'm going to continue to live my life in peace and harmony. So whatever you do over there, um, I will deal with it to the extent that I need to deal with it. But I am not about to jeopardize anything I have going on or my peace or my sanity to do anything with you or to even keep myself away from you. I am going to live my best life, whether you're around or you're not. That's
oh
how I
no,
feel
I'm
because I
doing
feel like
that.
I.
I agree with I agree with that too. I'm just saying, based on past history where this person would just pop up places and just do
Mm,
random stuff out of the blue, I'm not gonna handle it in the same be nice way that I
mm.
was. That's what I'm saying. I'm not. It's not gonna be. It's not gonna be nice. It's this person is unhinged, and we're gonna handle it as such. I'm because the
I
be
get
nice
that.
thing. That's what I'm saying, and I look at it as
It doesn't work.
protection. Yeah, the be
Mm-mm.
nice thing does not work with narcissists. They get off on that and they use it.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So, and we lived our life being forced to be nice at first and then choosing to be nice. And I think now as adults, because I know that type of personality, the only way to handle it is to handle it.
Yeah, I do.
You
I
can't
get what
be
you're
nice out
saying,
of it. That's what I'm
but I
saying.
do think
I'm
that
still in my
person looks
life,
for
but
you. The thing is, the problem with my only issue with that is that problem. I think that person is looking for you to be that reactionary, right?
I mean,
And
maybe
so
they are.
that would be my only reservation. Like when you're like, you know what, I want to smile regardless. That person would rather see you break an ankle, cringe, run away, like any type of trauma response, which is like, I'm calling the cops. Like, do whatever you want to do. Like, as adult, you don't get to run my life anymore in any
I
aspect.
agree. I mean, I don't think it has stopped me from living life. I still get up and I still smile. Most of the time I don't even necessarily think about it. It comes up in certain situations.
Oh
So
yeah,
I'm still gonna live my life. I'm still gonna smile. I'm still gonna handle it. I'm not gonna let you think that this is also okay either. Because I feel like
yeah,
that was
I get
the
that.
other issue is like we always made it easy or accessible for him to continue his behavior he because we were kind about it or we were considering
Mm-hmm.
his emotions. And it's like he
Mm-hmm.
never considered us. So like if it comes down to a direct threat, and I'm not walking around looking for a direct
Gotta
threat.
go.
When it comes down to a direct threat, hell yeah, I'm calling the cops. I'm calling the cops. You're not gonna continue to do this.
Yeah.
They can
Part of my
handle it.
problem too with that is because I don't know the legal system doesn't like to handle those things. So, and it really typically doesn't change anything. And so that's why I'm just kind of like, you know what? I'm just going to go
I
on. I
hear
mean,
that.
because
And maybe they
we've
don't, but
already been through
like
the legal system and we saw that turn out. And it was just like,
I agree,
that was a
but at
shit show.
least I'm at least get it on record.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think you should do what's best for you. I'm just saying from my experience,
I
where it's
don't
just
think
not
that
helpful.
I agree that I think like I'm not saying the legal system is foolproof or whatever, but I'm saying like I don't put anything past him and I'm not going to risk my personal safety for his comfortability anymore. And I think we did that as children. Like I'm going to
I know, I think
continue to
we
live
did that.
I'm going to continue to live my life. That's fine. But the man shows up at some place that, you know, 10, 20 years down the road, I got kids. He shows up someplace and he's like making a scene. I'm not gonna just be like, smile, move on. No, get his ass. Get him.
I know,
You know what I'm
but okay,
saying?
so I get what you're saying 100%. But like with the historical past of our legal system, and when it comes to things like that, you even experienced it on even somewhat of a lighter level and when you first moved.
Mm.
Um, and that was literally taken as a joke.
I agree. I'm not saying that it's foolproof. I'm saying though, but what I also experience is you get enough of them reports. I also saw that. Changes eventually were made.
I guess.
I mean, I hope for his sake he just gets a picture and moves on. But what I'm saying is I think another way of backing down is to just ignore and just ignore him. He's gotten off so much on his life on people just ignoring him and not just calling out his behavior.
No, I get what you're like. To me, I understand what you're saying 100%. Because, like I said, we've been on both sides of the fence where we've had the legal system come in and we've just kind of ignored things. And both of them were, in some sense, very non-productive. Like, let's be honest. In the interest of both of those, or in both those situations, the interest of children were not protected whatsoever.
Agreed. So. I guess I just look at it as like, now I feel a really intense responsibility. I have to protect my life and the lives of people who are connected to me. And if that means like you gotta go, I'm talking about if he really starts pulling some crazy stuff like, like the previous situation I was in, like if they really start pulling some crazy stuff, I'm not gonna be like, oh well, nah, he's just blah blah blah. Like he's gotten off on that, and that allows him to continue to do it. When people just ignore and look past and call him, oh, he's crazy, that's just who he is. That allows people to allows his behavior to continue.
Yeah, that's true.
I'd rather there at least be legally some barrier there that if you come over here on some crazy stuff, which I wouldn't put past him, if you come over here with some crazy stuff, then there's ramifications for it. That's what I'm saying.
That's fair.
Don't think you get to just run up on just because we're your children. Like, and he's always gotten off on that. He's always gotten off on that. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think that
I feel that more intensely now that I'm an adult. I just feel it more intensely now that I'm an adult.
Yeah,
and I look at it like, okay, so the career path I want to go to could lead to publicity, right? Or being a public figure or somebody in the public eye. Why wouldn't that's even more to protect, in my opinion, right? I'm not saying it'll happen, but I'm just saying I could just see. I don't put it past him doing some weird shit. That's all I'm saying. In the name of I'm your father, like you know what I'm saying. So maybe we'll just handle it differently.
Like I said, I totally get it. Like with the person that we're dealing with, you just never know. You know, I don't really think there's any right way to deal with it. You just have to figure out what's best for you and what's going to protect your peace and what helps you feel better at the end of the night. But
I'm gonna protect my peace and keep me a peace. You get it? From like, Medea, she's like, my piece of steel. Protect my peace and keep a peace. Okay, that was supposed to be funny. Anyways,
I didn't get it, but okay.
Keep a piece of steel. You didn't see that in the movie? It's in one of the Medea movies. Okay, anyways, it was funny. In my head, it was funny. It made sense.
Got it. Okay. Let us know in the comments if y'all got that, because I didn't.
Yeah. Or don't. If you didn't get it, don't let me know. The joke was just too lame to understand.
Probably. Most likely.
More than likely. Okay, well, that was a good discussion. Get therapy. We need it, definitely, obviously, as you can tell. Don't be afraid. Let's destigmatize getting therapy. Everybody probably pretty much needs it, I would imagine. Or I don't say everybody, but a lot of people probably do need it.
I think everybody needs it. Therapy's great. I love it. And you don't have to go because you're dealing with trauma. Like, you can go to just unload, offload, all this stuff. So I highly recommend the trauma. But we thank you guys for joining us in this episode. And we look forward to seeing you guys in the next one.
Bye, everybody.